Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to TheStreet Live. I'm Jeff Marks, Senior Portfolio Analyst at Action Alerts Plus, standing live on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with Jim Cramer. Jim, we opened lower today after a really nasty sell-off yesterday, but things are trying to turn around a little bit. What do you think is going on in the markets today?
I think that there's a undercurrent that maybe, I know this is going to sound crazy, but Carl pointed out, there are a lot of very smart people who are saying that Saturday is going to be the peak of COVID in our country. Now, remember, it peaked in UK. It peaked in India. It can peak here when you get the combination of the number of vaccines and the number of people who are sick. And that's one of the reasons I think that Home Depot can bounce, obviously Lowe's, because today seems to be a day where people are reassessing how dire things are. And that's what I thought would happen when we did our call yesterday here. I said, no, come on, it's not that dire. And so far, so good.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that Lowe's earnings report because you did make a good call on that yesterday. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about some of the action that we did see yesterday. On Real Money, you talked about how there was a big rotation going on into the drug stocks, into the grocery stocks. And it's just, rotation is just one more example of why there's always a bull market somewhere.
Right, and I'm going to do more on that today. I've been doing research. I'm sorry I didn't get my Real Money piece out yet, but I've been doing some research on the drug stocks themselves. And it doesn't matter whether they're doing well or poorly, frankly. Bristol didn't have that good a quarter. It's going to its high. Lilly is at 37 times earnings, but their results so far for Alzheimer's are pretty positive. And the group is really about, I think, a weakened Democratic coalition that's not really attacking the drug stocks. I've seen this before, where the drug stocks come under fire going into presidency, and then people forget about it. And I would tell people that we own AbbVie. And AbbVie's the lowest price earnings multiple, and that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it also has the biggest dividend yield of the group as well. Just another reason why to own AbbVie.
And I think that Rinvoq, I think it's going to be approved. I think that your mirror's not going to drop off the face of the earth. Skyrizi's going to be good. I just think that of our stocks, I wish we had more drug stocks, frankly. I mean, that's kind of where I am. Now you can say, Jim, that's a slowdown story. You know, I'm saying, no, it's a story about how Congress is not able to regulate these guys, even though I think that a lot of people felt that if Biden got in, it would change things. That's a remobilization story, and I'm going to try to distinguish that versus a story which said there must be a slowdown coming, because it's not. There is no slowdown coming. What there is a belief that we don't know where we're going to be working.
Yeah, we know that group also trades at a pretty large discount to the S&P 500 as well.
Not. I mean, the group is now nowhere. Really one of the worst performing groups over the last decade. And that's because we always think that we're going to get regulation, but we haven't got regulation. So I think that we're getting what's happened in the 1990s, post when Clinton went to he went to Merck. And Merck said, listen, we're basically going to destroy you. And then he didn't. So I think we're getting a remobilization. Don't think it's a slowdown. I don't want to confuse things. Yesterday, Campbell's Soup was up and Bristol was up. One was up because people felt a slowdown. That's Campbell's. The other is just part of a remobilization, reanalysis of that how we got this group so hobbled. It was over-hobbled. And again, I think AbbVie is pretty inexpensive.
All right, Jim, before we get into the earnings over the past 24 hours, let's just talk about the Fed a little bit. We did have Fed Chairman Jerome Powell speak yesterday at a virtual conference, and he did continue to say that the Delta variant does put some doubt in the economy, and the Delta variant is a big variable that we're watching. So, and we also have seen some pretty weak economic data recently, whether it's retail sales, housing starts. So is this just more the reason why the Fed should continue to stay the course?
Well, I think that the pressure on the Fed comes from the media, analyzing, putting microphones in front of people who have historically been wrong. I think that Powell's stance is that when things are clearer, we'll make a move. Given the disarray of the FDA and the CDC and the inability to come up with any federal data that shows how things are doing in terms of healthcare, and he's not a public health advisor, why not wait? I mean, I wish there were more people who would come in the media and say, look, why not wait? Because how does he know? Gottlieb's saying there's going to be a peak. A lot of other people are saying it's raging. So why does he wait a month and that can be resolved? So, I mean, the pressure on him to do something now because he's done it. These are, Jackson Hole has been the time to do it. These are all silly. This is what I call the lazy thinking. Lazy thinking, when I first got into journalism, is, okay, so on Monday we're going to do this story, Tuesday we're going to do that story, Wednesday we're going to do that story, Thursday that story, and we know what we're going to say already. No, we shouldn't know what we're going to say already because he shouldn't know. And just because he's going to Jackson Hole in a year when we have something that could infect us all, and there's breakthroughs everywhere, and the Texas governor gets it, well, why not wait to see if this is a peak or not? I mean, obviously, right before India peaked, it looked pretty bad. So if you wanted to get ahead of it, then you should have moved. But no one thought it could peak. So, I mean, I've got a feeling, I was looking at the Johns Hopkins numbers, there's no peak that I can see. I'm looking at Johns Hopkins numbers because the CDC is not keeping the numbers. It's state by state that's keeping the numbers. So all I'm saying is that he doesn't have the data to make a move. He just doesn't.
All right, speaking of lazy thinking, a lot of people sold Lowe's yesterday in reaction to that Home Depot, but you said on our show and on Twitter all throughout yesterday, let's just wait to see the Lowe's quarter before you want to sell it just because of Home Depot, because CEO Marvin Ellison is doing a lot of good things, and better than expected earnings report, same store sales, a little bit better than expectation, stock is much higher in the action. What gave you that confidence to say, let's stick with Lowe's and not necessarily correlate one for one Home Depot?
I think he's doing better with the consumer. I don't know how much he's been able to do pro. That's something I'm going to ask him tonight on the show on Mad Money. But I will say this. When you have a CEO at Home Depot who says that we've seen that the consumer's not shopping as much Saturday and Sunday, they're traveling and entertaining, and you don't see that at Lowe's, some people are going to draw the conclusion it's not that they're traveling and entertainment, it's just they're not going to Home Depot, they're going to Lowe's. When I go to my Lowe's, it's of course anecdotal, I like it so much more than my Home Depot. It's really kind of extraordinary. I mean, there's people you can, there's humans, and I'm not just wandering down aisles, that I can get help. Now, I go to 3 different Lowe's, and I like them all, but I didn't before Marvin. I didn't. They were disasters.
And you have him on Mad Money tonight.
Yeah, I think that Marvin Ellison, if there was anyone who could turn around Lowe's, it was Ellison because of experience at Home Depot, and he's doing it. I find what he's doing is returning to the days when, like when Mr. Niblock was first running Lowe's, where Lowe's was just killing Home Depot on a month-to-month basis. And then Home Depot went ascended under Frank Blake and Meneer. And I just think that Home Depot may be a little fat and happy. Now, they'll tell you, Jim, we did $40 billion in sales in a quarter. Are you kidding me? But I want to see how much of it, they do great with Pro. But the consumer matters too.
All right, let's talk Target next. Better than expected quarter, raised outlook. Brian Cornell talked very bullish over the second half of the year. However, we did see the stock open lower this morning. Is this just a matter of expectations? Target has been one of the strongest retailers over the last year or two.
Target's up 44%. Walmart's up 5%. Okay, Walmart reported an unbelievably good number. Target reported a number that's slightly better than expected. So which are you going to buy? I am a buyer of the company that had unbelievably good numbers. That's why I think that we own Walmart, and Walmart is so not done. There were 7 pieces today that raised the price target. Walmart is doing omni-channel that everyone thought they couldn't do. And I think that one of the things that was really interesting is that we used to see these pieces about how omni-channel is not gaining. They were all wrong. They were all wrong. It's very consistently going higher, and Doug McMillon promised me much more to come. So I'm going with Doug here. I think that's one of the most undervalued stocks we have in our portfolio.
All right, Jim. Krispy Kreme reported its first quarter since its IPO last night. They beat on sales, beat on EBITDA. You did have the CEO on last night, too. What do you think about Krispy Kreme's stock? What do you think about it here?
They guided 9 to 11. Tattersfield's a very exciting CEO. They also have cookies. I would say here's the issue. It's one of those companies that came public during this period, and there's no support for any of these companies. It's like, still one more company I have to deal with. I think it's better than that. I think that the cookie initiative gives them another day part. They said they have no problem with labor. They've got thank God they didn't call it a flywheel, but they have, they have an omni-channel business that's working. Here's what they're fighting. They make you fat. And the old days, why you would go there, and I remember used to grilling the old CEO, was that it was a treat. You could go treating there. They're out of, as much as I love Tattersfield, and I really do, they're not good for you. So that's what they're fighting versus when they were in public, and the stock's worth more now. And look at McDonald's versus some of the companies that are doing better for you, Chipotle. Okay, I think that they're more in the McDonald's camp than the Chipotle camp. Good to see a Wendy's upgrade today, but if you're doing McDonald's, you don't have the younger person. If you're doing Chipotle, you do. And I think that they're fighting a tide, and I was urging him not to use 9/11 growth. But he is saying, listen, we can put up stores all over the place. We have a lot of room. He was using hub and spoke. And I love the story. I just can't eat them. I can't eat them. I can't even treat myself. And, you know, if you take a look at the health club stocks, you realize that there's a propensity, especially since this is kind of an interesting thesis here. But since COVID, we know that the people who are more at risk are obesity and people who have diabetes. I cannot think of a better way to become obese than eating Krispy Kremes. It's just a one-way ticket there. I would not, you know, there were probably 10 boxes on the set yesterday, and they smell great. And I looked around, and you know what I did? I had a goddamn rice cake.
That takes a lot of discipline.
Rice cake here, all right, and Krispy Kreme here. The rice cake has zero taste, but it's filling, and it makes it so you don't eat a steak at night.
Yeah, I think if I was on set with you, I probably would have gone for at least 3 donuts.
Oh, nobody could stop themselves except for me. I was the only one that has discipline. And that comes post-surgery when I decided, you know what, I haven't been disciplined. I'm taking myself down to 174. Anything that stands in the way of 174 is just off the table.
All right, Jim. Yesterday we did talk about Roblox following their report, and you said you thought the reaction to the quarter was a little bit too negative because July showed a lot of improvement over June. It was a pretty good call because the stock did rise throughout the session yesterday. I did see it higher at one point today. You were the CEO on last night as well.
Now, it's a 15-year-old company. It's got great cash flow. It is very well run, and it's metaverse. Now, Metaverse, you play with Facebook, you play it with Unity, you play it with these guys. Metaverse, remember, is the ability to, say, watch a virtual concert. Maybe one day design a game that is, you know, that has you in a Tesla with 3 of your friends. There are great things coming that we've never dreamed about. If you go read what Zuckerberg talked about with the metaverse, said it's the most exciting thing he's ever seen. So you've got some guys who really understand the metaverse, and Roblox does. Now, against that is when people go back to school, they can't just sit there and play Roblox all day. They play it after they do their homework. So but I think the stock reflects that newfound negativity and gives us a chance to be able to buy it if you don't own it.
Yeah, and after reading the Facebook earnings call a couple weeks ago, we know really the force behind that metaverse, the metaverse, and who makes the graphic chips is Nvidia, and of course they're going to report after the closing bell tonight.
Yes.
Big Action Alerts plus position for many years. Also a name of one of your dogs, one of your newer dogs.
Nvidia the second.
What do you think about Nvidia here?
Okay, Nvidia's, thank heavens, been stalled at 195, right? I did the split, thank you.
Yeah.
But what I worry about is there's so many people, jerks, who still don't understand that it's not an Ethereum play. There are graphic cards that aren't good enough to be used for gaming, and that's what the Ethereum guys get. What I want to hear is Fisher cut bait on ARM holdings, because any combination now seems suspect. I think ARM makes a lot of sense with them. I would rather see them have a joint venture with ARM at this point and leave it at that, no takeover. And it's interesting because SoftBank would be the big loser there. SoftBank's been selling off, good Bloomberg story, selling off a lot of holdings, billions of dollars worth of holdings. But
in mega cap tech, right? Microsoft, Alphabet.
What was the one that was, I'm sorry, Uber. But what matters to me is, is SoftBank worried that deal's not going to come through? Is that why they're selling? They need ARM holdings to be sold. So I'm watching them panic And I'm wondering whether that's because they feel like that Nvidia is going to have to say, look, we can't get it through.
So you would view the acquisition Nvidia of ARM Holdings as more of a nice to have for an Nvidia than a must have?
I really wanted them to have it. And look, don't argue with Jensen Huang. If he thinks he needs it, he needs it. And I remember when I was doubting him on Mellanox, the Israeli company that he bought for edge computing. And my doubts were, in retrospect, not warranted. They continue to assure me that this deal will get done. I continue to be concerned about it. But either way, it's a win.
Yeah, I remember when that Mellanox deal closed last spring, and the stock was off to the races ever since then.
Nvidia, I think, is going to have a very good quarter. What's been reacting, if you take a look at the reaction to analog devices, it's very typical. Analog devices opens down 3. I say on air that's wrong. Analog devices is going to be better. It's better than Texas Instruments. It's a lot of Internet of Things. Stock's unchanged now. People don't throw away Nvidia if the first thing you see is some line that you don't like. Nvidia is the greatest, maybe the greatest tech story of our time. And I'm including Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, because this is a company that is so not done. It's a Roblox company, by the way. Everything's done on their cars. And anything metaverse is all being driven by Jensen Huang.
All right, Jim, 1 week from today, we're going to have our monthly Action Alerts Plus video exclusive for members of the club. We always talk about our newest initiations there. You provide your world view. We get into a Q&A as well. What are you thinking about ahead of next week's call?
Next week, I am thinking about talking about Nucor, okay, and what it means to have a down year. And what you're doing when you're buying a stock like a Nucor, what you're saying is, we are now in August. We're no longer looking at 2021 numbers. We're all focused on 2022 numbers. In our business, you turn the calendar this month. And when I look at what we're doing, I am saying, okay, how do you not buy Win? Next year's going to be up. Nucor is a battleground because of infrastructure, but right now, at this very moment, my worldview, this is a 6-month worldview, has switched to 2022. And 2022 is clouded by COVID, but you have to remember that at this particular moment, right now, I stopped caring about 2021.
Yeah, and we should call out that Nucor's price target was raised to 142 this morning by analysts at Credit Suisse. That's the show for today, everyone.
Can I just mention what, I'll give you a classic name for us, MasterCard. Well, in 2021, I no longer care. I don't. I mean, borders are closed. Doesn't matter. 2022 borders will be open. You buy MasterCard on 2022. On 2021, if I was still focused on 2021, I'd say, let's not be aggressive. I want right now, and we talked about this before, you know the way the club works, right before we started this interview, I said, let's call Zeb, let's get some MasterCard on. And we went down and said it wasn't down yesterday. But MasterCard is the stock I want to buy for 2022. And I'm turning the page next week on the conference call to 2022. And MasterCard's looking great to me. And you know what else is? AbbVie.
And let me just say real quick, if we do have the open borders, that means aerospace we could be seeing a nice rebound as well. Another reason to buy Boeing,
I
Honeywell.
don't understand why people think that Boeing's not going to be approved by 2022. Remember, if you're using a 2022 look, you're going to like a lot of our stocks. And that's one of the things that I feel so good about. There'll be some that don't cut it in 2022, by the way. And we're going to even have to discuss Amazon.
All right, this sounds like a must-watch call for next week. I'm Jeff Marks. We'll see you tomorrow.